Hi guys, it's Casey here at Colonial Gardens, an independent garden center in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. It is late October and I am by one of the last of our test gardens that we didn't get to cover this year. This is Lindsay's cosmically inspired garden. So she decided to pick plants that either had names that were very similar to planetary bodies or reminded her in their shape. So in this bed we had starflower this year, for example, night sky petunias, and to represent the cosmos. Cosmos are a very popular annual flower, especially if you're going for the wildflower vibe, and you can really see why. It's late October and these things are massive. They're actually part of the aster family and native to Mexico, and they have these really delicate papery flowers that get up to like 3 inches wide on this particular variety, but there's some varieties that are even wider, even bigger, and sometimes have many, many layers of petals. So there's a lot of different colors that cosmos can come in, and they're really valued for this sort of whimsical vibe that they give off. You can see the foliage is extremely finely textured. I often think of them as the background on like a Windows 8 laptop computer. You might see like a field full of wildflowers. You might see the cosmos as one of those representatives. Now, they're interesting to grow because I think sometimes my idealized version of a cosmos is not exactly what you get in reality. So I planted them in my yard last year and I had a very similar experience to what we're seeing now. Actually, my experience was much worse than what we're seeing now because right now you are seeing dozens, if not over 100 flowers on these plants. But if we kind of take a greater view of this garden, the cosmos really took over this space. So they're amongst a bunch of other pretty well performing plants, but they really went crazy. Even though they started the same size as everything else, they really maximized their height. You can see that they're over 5 feet tall when you prop them up. And some of them have really started a very thick root base. So the reason I pulled up my cosmos last year is because they ended up being mostly this root, and mine never actually produced these giant stalks of flowers. They just became this massive foliage monster of a plant. And I figured out what my issue was, and that was that I was taking way too good of care of my cosmos. These are flowers that thrive in dry, lean soils, and if you fertilize them, they will punish you. So that's actually a little bit what we see here. We didn't do a lot of fertilization because I warned the team, hey, this is what happened to mine. Let's really leave the cosmos alone. But I even think that the amended soil that we gave them with topsoil and compost was too nice for them. And we ended up with these really, really massive plants. Now, that's not totally a bad thing. These are really stunning, especially from a distance. So when we're running our events, people can see them from across the pathway and are really drawn to these big, beautiful flowers. But when you're trying to put them in a more formal garden setting, they're not really behaving the way that you might want a plant to behave alongside the other plants. It ended up shading them out. It ended up really overwhelming the space, really a different scale of plant than all of the other garden plants that were in this bed. And so this was definitely a learning experience for us on how these plants best behave. And what I would say is if you love cosmos, they're probably best grown in more of a naturalized garden. So one that's a little less formal, a little less needing to play well with others, and probably more as a background plant on the edge of your garden versus one that's more formal in the front of your yard. So again, this is Cosmos. It is an annual in our zone. If we let these go to seed entirely, we may see them reseed in other parts of the garden, but for the most part, they're going to die back over winter, and we'll be able to restart the garden entirely next spring. So thanks for watching. You can get Cosmos here at Colonial Gardens in the spring.